this is gonna be basically we're gonna be doing TA on Dutch Bros today. Last video we did TA on Starbucks. Basically we're talking about how it can basically shit to the fucking floor right now, or it can even come up, grab this extreme liquidity, and then dump from there. Okay. Oh shit. All right. Okay. So basically, market makers, they literally blasted off the price back in 2021 of November. Let me delete some of this. It's looking a lot to go through. All right. Higher low for higher high, pulling range from top to bottom. This is your first deviation. Now, when market makers confirm, or well, before that, market makers made a quick accumulation. Market makers made their first tap right here, came up, made a distribution to go down for the second tap. There's your third tap right here. All wick deviations, so that means that Goldman Sachs is literally on the buttons. Full port your positions. All right, came up. Now this is really gonna be going to your second tap. This is super juicy right here. Holy shit! The fact that market makers literally wicked all this right here. DL tool. That's fire. Now, pulling range now to the second tap, third tap right here. Market makers, the fact that they even wicked this DL tool. Oh my gosh, bro. Literally take out the biggest loan. Alright. Range, stop loss below your third tap. Above your third tap. And then you have your TP on your technical target of the end of the range. 4.22 RR estimate. Absolutely insane, bro. So, dumps down. Basically, rejects off of this DL. Literally picture perfect. Holy shit. Literally picture perfect. That's crazy. So now, pulling range now to this tap down here. Oh. Boom. Okay. This is on the high time frame. So this is a high time frame range. Let's delete this so it's not that confusing. Market makers, again, there was supply right here, so it makes sense. But market makers did that on purpose because this was also where equilibrium was, right? So, makes sense. Came back down. Market makers now shorted price right here. Let's do the work. Lower high for lower low. Top to bottom, first tap, second tap. First deviation, second deviation, pull range. Now it's your third deviation right here. Boom. Your short would have looked something like this. Boom. 5.7 estimate RR. Like I said, that's crazy. Literally, market makers were on their toes, bro. They was on the buttons back in, what is this, 2023? Crazy. I hate that I wasn't looking at the chart. Lower high for lower low. Even this was some type of distribution here on the lowest time frame. That's perfectly, like, dude. The fact that this is on this equilibrium, dude. Oh my gosh. First tap right here. Second tap. Third tap. Even this right here. This is some type of even lower time frame accumulation. Market makers wanted to fill even more of their positions right here. Now, when market makers, if you were in this entry already, on this breaker structure around here, market makers came back up, rejected, you would have literally been shitting your pants, right? But market makers wicked this, whatever demand this was on the lower time frame. Now, when it came back up, since this is liquidity up here, boom. Since that's all liquidity, you would have moved your stop loss to break even, and from there, literally just absolutely went fucking barnacles. Now, on the way up, though, would have been scary because this looked like a short, right? But realistically, it was the short, finesse, higher low for higher high. First tap, pull range to this, DL2 respected. Second deviation, as you can see. First tap, second tap, third tap. While you are still in the position, right? Because this is your technical target. You were already in a break-even position. What I would have did is shorted, most likely would have taken partials, came back down, but you would have seen that there was liquidity above right here. So this was definitely still in play. Once it was breaker structure right here, as you can see, because there's that crazy liquidity, market makers just gapped price up. Like there was nothing stopping that. I would have doubled down on my positions. Same thing. TP end of range. Bro, could have made so much bread. Anyways, so we're done with that. Now, market makers came back down, finished the TP to come back down, liquidate everybody before blasting off again. Now this is in the $20 range. Higher time frame, rejected off this. This would have been considered your second deviation for the highest time frame. Pull the market structure to there. Pull the range to there. So now market makers, hypothetically, they're now up just off of their longs from accumulating down here. They're off of like a 4x right there, right? Market makers came back down, lower high for lower low. Delete this. Pull range from bottom to top because we were saying lower high for lower lows. First deviation right here. Second deviation right here. Now, market makers, when they came up for this first deviation, market makers were making some type of distribution here internally, right? 1, 2, 3, right? 1, 2, 3. This would be considered a model 2. This is actually really important as well. It's a nice model 2 because this was some extreme liquidity up here, and market makers just decided to go for that. So this would have been valid. You would have took your shorts in this internal accumulation right here, right there, right? Because this is the end of range, 7 RR. So you would have been up 7 RR on your positions, but really that was just to make the second tap. So right here I would have definitely tried to get out because this would have, remember on the higher, on the mid time frame, market makers are really trying to accumulate price, right? So boom, market makers make their second tap. Market makers make a low time frame distribution, higher low for higher high, boom. First deviation, second deviation. You would have tried shorting it right here now. Right there, boom. 256, kind of mid. Maybe not something I would have taken. I usually go for just like, I go for like 3 RRs and up, so that's not something I'd be interested in, but it's 100% valid. What's the deal, or what's the vol tool on that actually? Kind of mid. Still P shape, and you can see that the volume was up there where market makers were shorting, but I don't know, it's just not high probable enough for me. Comes down though, makes sense that here it's here on the equilibrium. High time frame, it does make sense, right? They're shorting here on equilibrium. The bias is that they just came up to short to create the high time frame third tap for the accumulation that we had going on in the first place. Right here, first, second, here. First, second. Let's make it green. First, second, third tap right here. But as you can see, even right here, market makers made an internal accumulation in the mid time frame / high time frame accumulation. Insane. First tap, second tap, third tap. Your accumulation would have been up here. Now something like this where it's an accumulation in an accumulation, bro, I'm literally full porting fucking positions. Larry Fink on the phone, blowing up my phone, telling me those text messages, he was telling me to long those positions, bro. He was telling me, bro, apply for every credit card, full port that shit, credit limit to the max. Bro, insane work. Now, as we can see, right here, market makers came up, made a higher low for higher high. Once market makers came right here, wicked that demand. By the time market makers were about right here, that's where I would have put stop loss break even. So now I would have been in a risk-free trade from May going into June. So literally in a month, I would have been in a risk-free trade, right? Now technically we would still be in the position risk-free, like we just said, but you look mid-time frame and in current price, higher low for higher high, range top to bottom. Oh my gosh, dude, look at this. Do I even need to say anything? Do I even need to say anything? Nasty, absolutely nasty, bro. Even the fact that market makers wicked and accumulated prices stopped at this part of that, like, dude, come on, of that previous range. And then for the third tap, market makers finally filled that wick, and now I'm expecting this to finish the range. Now, what do I think? High time frame. What are my expectations on Dutch Bros now? Now, one of two things can happen. One, it can reflect off of same price action as Starbucks, what I was thinking in the first place. Come up for the liquidity, come back down, and some news comes out. I don't know what the fuck, coffee bean. There's COVID in the coffee beans or some crazy shit. Boom. Because remember, high time frame, we're still in the highest. Oh, accidentally made that. Technically, remember, we're still in the highest time frame on the daily distribution. We're looking for one more deviation for the short. Market makers can come up, make that third deviation right there, make a third deviation, and then basically on the breaker structure, that shit's going to the fucking floor again, bro, at $20. Market makers would be wicking the $100. You know what I'm saying? If we think about it in a manipulation play for retail, as Dutch becomes more hyped. Oh my gosh, Dutch is going to 100, going to 100. It makes perfect sense that market makers have been years on planning out the distribution to either wick or maybe even just like barely tap that $100, drop down all the way back down to 20. So while market makers, because they were accumulating all the way here in the $20, they're making a 5x on their initial return. Initial investment. Retail, assuming that they get in at the 60 to 70, they're thinking that's just gonna go out to even make a 2x. They have to make all the way to 140. As you can see, at least from what I'm looking at, that shit is not happening. What really is gonna happen is market makers are gonna take profits when they make their 5x, and retail's gonna be down. What would that be like? 50 to 80% in drawdown. That sounds more realistic, right? Usually market makers are always one step ahead. And if we look at a chart like Starbucks, dude, Starbucks is looking just as bearish, but the problem is right now it's even looking bearish. Technically, market makers can just short right now. Another scenario would be it comes down. Right? This finishes off. Dutch Bros could, instead of coming up to come down, Dutch Bros can just grab the extreme liquidity right here, right? Just to dump again. That can happen as well. Because like we said, market makers can come up, wick for the 5x, or as you can see clearly, they can just keep the 4x, right? Totally fuck over retail. They definitely wouldn't see that coming. Both scenarios they wouldn't see coming, right? At the $80 and the $100, they would not see that coming. So it's literally perfect. Comes down, boom, just to the floor. Bro, come I like that. I kind of like that scenario more. Dutch Bros actually just shorting here on the extreme liquidity, but both is definitely a play.